In Palestine, the Israeli army keeps the Rafah crossing closed amid acute levels of famine in the Gaza Strip. European parliamentary elections leave a parliament that is swinging to the right as the far right increases its influence, although it is slightly contained. And the first meeting of the foreign ministers of the BRICS and BRICS Plus member countries is underway in Russia. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos, and from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. In Palestine, the Israeli army keeps the Rafah crossing closed amid acute levels of famine in the Gaza Strip. Various authorities, including the Egyptian Foreign Ministry, rejected the Israeli presence at the Rafah crossing, located between Egypt's Sinai Peninsula and the Gaza Strip. The Red Crescent Society affirmed that Israel continues preventing the passage of trucks carrying humanitarian aid through the Rafah crossing. The organization further reported that the Israeli closure aggravates the humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip and constitutes a direct violation of the order issued in May by the International Court of Justice on interim measures and international humanitarian law. And in the Gaza Strip, hospitals made up of tents are set up to try to guarantee medical attention for the population in the face of constant aggression by the Israeli occupation army. Our correspondent Huda Hegazi gives us more information in the following coverage.
I'm here in the interior of the hospital, formed by tents in Al Kuwait in the area of Al Mawasi and Han Yunis at the south of the Gaza Strip. This was located before in the Rafah Governorate, but after the military ground invasion had to reopen the doors as a tent hospital, and today has started the functions and opened the door to receive the patients. This hospital that, according to his director, is formed by 40 tents, has every specialty, every department. Every single tent is meant to take different specialties. We have different specialties as orthopedics, of surgery, and now we're going to make a tour to see how is formed this hospital. You can see far away that even there is a section of an operation room. We also can see the section of urology, cardiology. We're speaking of a hospital formed 100% with all the departments, medical departments that are needed. And we can say that it's one of the hospitals of tents which is better supplied in the whole governorate of the Gaza Strips. This kind of hospital is in need due to the Israeli military operation. It's been trying to collapse the medical system, and they had to do this kind of hospitals. Now even we're going to be inside of one of the sections of operations to see how they will work in the interior of the facility. As we can see, the reality is that it's really set for the surgeries. We can see the post-operational facility. There's even an entire room prepared to make the surgeries. We're going to get inside now. This surgery room will be the main one, and as we can see, is totally prepared with all the supplies and all the equipment to perform these surgeries. And what is being trying to do here in this hospital is to save the health system that the Israeli occupation army has tried to collapse during these 8 months of war in the Gaza Strip. And from this place, what is wanted is to try to save the lives of the wounded and the patients of Gaza.
We stay in Palestine as on Monday the number of people killed by Israel in the attack on the al-Nusayrat refugee camp rose to 274 Palestinians. In this way, the Ministry of Health of Gaza declared that some 698 people were also wounded, some of them in very serious condition. Otherwise, they also warned that the medical centers are struggling to cope with the influx of wounded and killed in the midst of the Zionist attacks. In this regard, countries and international organizations condemned the new massacre committed by Israel against the refugee camp of Nusayrat, denouncing that 70% of the dead were women and children. On the other hand, local authorities also added that several victims are still under the rubble and on the roads. In this way, local authorities in Gaza stressed on Monday that with the withdrawal of the Zionist army from Deir al-Balah, the horror of the massacre perpetrated on Saturday by the occupation army in the Nusayrat refugee camp is beginning to be revealed. As civil protection teams began to move and collect the bodies arriving by the dozens at the Al-Aqsa hospital, local authorities and human rights organizations called on the international community to intervene and provide medical supplies and fuel. The Gazan authorities have started to systematize the testimonies of survivors and witnesses of the massacre, many of whom recount massive executions carried out by the occupation army during operation. And also in this context, the Palestinian Government Information Office reported that the Israeli Zionist regime has killed over 150 journalists in the Gaza Strip during the last 8 months. The statement reflects the daily struggles of journalists in Gaza, while it also praises the work of local media workers and congratulates them for their coverage of the Israeli genocide. It should be noted that the Israeli army has also attacked dozens of media institutions, including the offices of Al Jazeera and Palestine TV. In this regard, Wael al-Dadu, head of the Al Jazeera network in Gaza, stated that the number of journalists killed is an unprecedented figure, exceeding the number of journalists killed in the world wars and the war in Vietnam. In other news, the U.S. Army began the withdrawal of its troops from Niger ahead of the September 15th deadline that was agreed by both countries. A joint statement issued by Africa Command explained that the withdrawal of U.S. forces will not have an impact on the development of the ongoing U.S.-Niger relations, and that both countries remain committed to a sustained diplomatic dialogue. President of Joe Biden's administration had so far resisted such a step publicly demanded by the Nigerian board, as it would imply the withdrawal of around 1,000 troops. Also pending is the future of a base built by the U.S. in the African country only 6 years ago and valued at $110 million. And in the United States, ahead of the upcoming elections, polls begin to show a slight Biden lead over Trump. In a poll conducted at the beginning of June by Yahoo News and data company YouGov, close to 1,900 U.S. citizens were surveyed regarding their intentions to vote for either presidential candidate. The results showed a lead of 2% of votes for President Biden before his Republican rival for the first time in these polls since October 2023. The results of the 6 previous surveys gave Trump the victory or had predicted a tie. Therefore, the companies concluded that the recent conviction of Trump for falsifying business records took its toll in the public opinion. Now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Europe, the far right increases its influence after the parliamentary elections leave a legislature with a noted conservative majority. After around 185 million voters across 27 European Union countries casted their votes, the first day of analysis of the polls showcased a surge of the far right in nations like France, Germany, and Austria. Also, as a result of the elections, the center-right European People's Party gained 8 seats for a total of 184 seats in the parliament, and the Party of European Socialists have 139 seats, holding on to the citizens' assessment. In this political context, the progressive left-wing parties are left with a tough battle ahead.
First of all, we want to thank everyone for their political commitment to peace, to stop the genocide in Palestine and to promote the rights that have been expressed at the ballot box and to build a Europe of peace and rights. The forces of the war consensus have a very worrying majority in Europe and in Spain, including an unbearable growth of the far right, the political principles that founded Europe, peace, anti-fascism and prosperity for the well-being of the people are in danger, and we must break the war consensus that is leading us to a war that we cannot afford.
In this context, we go now to Spain, where correspondent Sergio Rodrigo joins us to discuss the outcome of the European parliamentary elections and how the political map is shifting in the community bloc.
Greetings from the South audience. The European People's Party has won the elections to the European Parliament and has become the largest group in the Parliament, with 184 members. In this sense, Ursula von der Leyen could be re-elected as President of the European Commission and the agreement could be relaunched. The Grand Coalition, that is, the coalition of the People's Party together with other pro-European parties, such as the Socialist Party, the Democrats, or the Liberals. We will have to wait for the next negotiations, but all signs point to this. The other big news is the rise of the far right which, if united, could become the second political force in the European Parliament, and which has caused a political earthquake in the countries within the European Union. It has won in countries such as Austria, Italy, has become the second force in Germany and has also become the first political force in France, even provoking President Emmanuel Macron to dissolve the National Assembly and call elections for the coming months of June and July to elect the representatives of the French Chamber of Deputies. All of this has created, as I said, a major political crisis in Europe. The far right in France has doubled its votes and obtained more than 30% of the electorate, while the party of the French president obtained barely 15%. A scenario that has been repeated in other regions, such as Belgium, where the triple election on Sunday has also provoked the resignation of its prime minister, causing another political crisis. Another political rupture in Belgium, another country of the European Union that has suffered unprecedented parliamentary elections.
In other news, in Russia, the first meeting of the foreign ministers of the BRICS and BRICS Plus member countries has started. Hosted by Russian Foreign Affairs Minister Sergei Lavrov, the event is being held until Tuesday in the city of Nizhny Novgorod in the west of the country. During the reunion, the parties plan to discuss issues related to global governance, the strengthening role of developing countries, current international issues, conflict resolution, and interaction in many multilateral platforms, among others. The meeting is the first one held since the expansion of the bloc. At the BRICS 2024 Foreign Minister Summit, Moscow highlighted the strength of Russian-Chinese relations. In the sense, the Foreign Minister of China, Wang Yi, along with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, assured that the development of relations between the two nations is not affected despite external interference. Foreign Minister Wang Yi said that China is ready to implement the agreements reached at the highest levels, and it is striving for a more sustainable, multifaceted cooperation with Russia. Likewise, the head of the Russian diplomacy stressed that his country and China will continue to coordinate their foreign policies on international platforms such as the BRICS, which are driven by change and the will to resolve global issues. And we have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and also share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro met on Sunday in Caracas with the Venezuelan militancy to review the strategic plan 1x10, house by house, in view of the presidential elections of July 28th. Community leaders participated in the review of the program promoted by the Venezuelan president. The work team of the Venezuela Nuestra campaign command also took part in the activity. The head of state shared with the militants several recreational activities and likewise the mechanism of popular organization for the revision and reinforcement of the 1x10 program, and all the mobilization strategies were discussed.
Del 1x10 del Partido Socialista Unido de Venezuela.
The 1x10 machinery of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela has always been a good machinery, but now it is aiming to be a powerful machinery that everybody wants to participate, and there is the announcement I am going to make. I have received proposals from the Great Patriotic Board. I have received proposals from the communists, the social movement, from the social forces of the club, from the sovereignty fighters. I have received proposals from all sectors, from the missions, great missions, mission bases that want to join the 1x10. So today, June 9th, beautiful Sunday, blessed Sunday, I announced the constitution of a more powerful and superior political, social, cultural, electoral machinery, which will be the majority of the 1x10, 1x7. That is born today with the union of all the social, political, and cultural forces of Venezuela.
In this context, President Maduro assured that he will succeed hand in hand with the citizens in defeating the censorship in social media against the country.
Do you think we can defeat the life of social media? From the streets to social media. Here it is. It says that 8 out of 10 Venezuelans think that social media bans for political reasons. You, social media of the world, keep banning Maduro, then. Right return I. Together with the people, we are going to defeat you with the truth of the streets. Social media, of less words and the word of mouth. We will go door to door, house to house, and I will go on a sacred pilgrimage, raising awareness village to village. Just as I went to Palavecino, I will go to all the village for our beloved homeland to carry the message of the truth.
And also, President Maduro unfolded that the gross domestic product is expected to grow over 8% this year.
Venezuela is the country with the highest economic growth in Latin America and the Caribbean. The average growth rate given by ECLAC for Latin America and the Caribbean is 4%. Venezuela grew 7% in the first quarter, and gross domestic product is projected to ramp up by over 8% in 2024. And I think it will be much more. Tax collection has gone up by 93% in the first 5 months, which allows me to invest the money we collect in the Great Venezuelan Women's Mission, in the Great Grandmothers and Grandfathers of the Homeland Mission, in the Great Venezuela Youth Mission, in the community brigades to recover Simoncito centers, schools, high schools, CDI universities, clinics, raising the index income of workers, pensioners, in social plans, 93.8%.
And the 1x10 electoral strategy consists in the creation of electoral support networks where the Chavez people commit themselves to guarantee the attendance of 10 voters to the electoral process. According to the Great Patriotic Poll, these organizational structures must comply with 3 steps. First, the mobilizers must go house by house in their communities to explain the reasons why they should vote for the revolutionary forces. The second step means that 1 by 10 members should convince the voters through example. And thirdly, these voters must be organized so that they go to exercise their right to vote in their respective polling stations and guarantee a victory on July 28. In Chile on Sunday, the citizens were called to the primary elections to determine the candidates to represent each political party in the final polls, a process marked by the low participation of the population. In the sense, out of the 4.8 million people summoned to the primaries, only 300,000 votes were cast, which translates to a participation of 6.19%. Regarding these results, political scientist Pamela Figueroa explained that never more than 5% were historically voted in primary elections, while representatives from different political parties expressed concern about the low turnout of the process and called to improve the communication and publicly strategy for the primaries. And Haiti's new Prime Minister, Gary Conille, was released from the hospital on Sunday after being admitted the day before for respiratory problems. After a week of intense activity where he was sworn in as Prime Minister by Haiti's Presidential Transitional Council, the 58-year-old politician felt slightly ill on Saturday afternoon and went to the hospital for treatment where he got admitted to treat an asthma attack. Since the incident, Conille himself has assured that he feels well and promised to continue the work as his cabinet will be completed this week. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.